Well, hi there. My name is FixFox, and welcome back to this lazy Deathworld run. Things are going pretty okay. Granted, I mean, we haven't been on this planet for a hot minute, but I'm very glad to be back on this planet because we bring with us gifts from space, specifically artillery. Everything that was locked behind the orange metallurgic science packs. Yes, that is officially now open to us, and there's quite a bit of really good science here. But for a Deathworld run, there's maybe nothing better. Sweeter, perhaps I should say? Nothing sweeter, let's just say, than artillery. With that being said, I'm so excited to get our artillery and our artillery shells up and running that even though, as you can see in the upper right corner, is not fully been researched yet, we are bringing all these materials where they need to go so we can get artillery shells created. It's going to take calcite, sure. It's going to take some of the tungsten plates, absolutely. And then we've created some explosives here to the southeast of this little section that's going to eventually crank out lots and lots of artillery shells. And eventually, we're going to be building some radars as well. It's kind of interesting that radars are part of the artillery build. I mean, I get, maybe it's like a lore reason, you know? Like, if you've ever seen an artillery shell shoot in Factorio, you know that it will give you vision of whatever area it's passing over. I guess for that reason, it makes sense that there's an artillery shell. But in the meantime, I'm just not too sure exactly why you would need an artillery shell in something that's being shot out of a cannon at very high speeds. It's not like you need it to like do the telemetry and figure out where the artillery shell will land. I digress, folks. On top of the artillery that's coming up very quickly, we are going to be getting into Covrex processing right after this artillery is completed. And then we're also going to make sure that we are doing lots of upgrading to our infrastructure everywhere. Here's an example. So this is just our blue science, which I've identified as being one of our biggest bottlenecks at the moment. And we're going to just increase the speed. It's not too hard. Just got to use some underground belts, create a little bit of space where there was some already belts and production in play, and then just put a couple beacons down. It's amazing what just a little bit of speed module can do to your outlook on life. Also, we are getting tier 2 modules for speed modules, production modules, efficiency modules, quality modules, all good things. On top of that, we are going to be getting a little bit of an upgrade into our science labs in this playthrough. After the artillery more or less goes down, that is going to be a bit of an important thing for us. But wherever I see a concern in this playthrough, I'm going to take the time to stop and solve it. Sometimes the biggest trap in Factorio is that you say, oh yeah, I'll come back to that later, and then you forget, and you just never do it. Even though it might take you a little bit of extra time, I still think it's a great idea to just slow down and handle whatever you possibly can. And the only exception to that general strategy is when something is on fire or about to be. Now, I will tell you right now that given the fact that we're about to throw down some artilleries and therefore we were about to poke the hornet's nest, as it were, yeah, we're probably gonna take some breaks here and there. Like, you know, oh look, hey, it's a coal mine. I better get this production changed out from regular miners into big miners. Sure, it gives you increased production, right? In about a minute and a half, though, I would absolutely not take the time to slow down and do that. Yeah, absolutely not. FixFox, why, you ask? Well, because with the biters not having a home, they're going to try to make a home with us. I don't actually know. Anybody that's played Factorio long term, why do you think that the biters come and attack you after you artillery their home? Is it because they, like, understand that we are somehow responsible for their wrongdoing? Like, all the things that have happened to them, like, somehow they need to come and seek retribution from me? Like, maybe. I don't know. But whatever the case is, I know that we're about to spit a lot of fire at a lot of biters. And this is just the beginning of it. Oh yeah, this is just the beginning of it. But don't feel bad for the biters. If they didn't want to have this kind of rough time with me, they shouldn't have built so close to my pollution cloud. That seems like it's on them. Ah, run! I mean, planned that. Okay, we're never leaving the safety of our base ever again. Well, I say that, but as the technology increases and gets better, we are so too also going to get better. Worth noting at this current juncture, by the way, I'm going to be manually targeting a lot of these nests, and I mean a lot of these nests. And the reason is because I can actually save a couple of artillery shells I am going to have tons of imports from Volcanus. That's not the problem here. It just seems to me like I can be a little bit more efficient with the first batch of artillery shells that comes out. And how I mean is this: if you have multiple nests that are stacked right next to each other, you can sometimes kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Or because I'm not able to kill a full nest with 1 artillery, then I guess you can kill 2 birds with 2 stones, but still, that will work out very, very well. In the meantime, I'm going to turn my attention to not just in the base, which, yeah, I've just kind of had fun and shoot a little bit of artillery out there as I launch an artillery piece through my production line there into my iron ore. We'll find that later, I promise. As we then turn our inserters into filter inserters, so that way we can get artillery shells in the same cargo wagons that we put materials onto to bring back to the base. Yeah, we're now going to have artillery shells come out of those cargo wagons and then supply these exterior bases, the iron ore patches and the copper ore patches. The cost is this: if you're going to be bringing 4 artillery shells per train trip, that means that you're going to be limiting your throughput by 200 iron ore per trip as well. At this point, that's not too big of a deal. Eventually, we're going to have a dedicated war wagon train, but to get that on board, we're going to need to do a little bit more clearing out of the initial biters, and then also we're going to need to step up our game and get ourselves an actual rail line. These double-headed trains are still working effectively, but I recognize that their uses are limiting themselves and limiting me a lot, and more so as time goes on. So we shall continue to just clear everything out. It's not really like a montage here, but it feels very, very satisfying to see the damage rain in from afar. Yeah, rain in from afar, I say. I guess this is just an example of me just indicating, hey, foundries and big miners, they're coming in hot from space. Oh, that's a problem. It looks like if you just clicked on the science there that we were missing black science. Our production for science just wasn't going at all. And then I remembered, oh yeah, that's because I forgot that the biters killed this stone mine out here and I never rebuilt it. Thankfully, we got these big miners out here now, and now we've created a little bit of a wall. That's going to make sure that we don't have major problems again in the future. So we'll take that. Again, see a problem, fix the problem. And then we're doing the same basic detail out here to the south as we are doing for the iron ore to the east. And we're just going to slowly bring 4 shells in at a time and just piss off the biters wherever they might be, which feels really, really good. And I love that I'm out here for this moment because holy kittens, these biters immediately sense my presence. I say sense my presence as if they didn't just get bombarded from afar. And it's really, really nice. I could just spit a little bit of fire out there. Believe it or not, this probably actually saved a couple of construction bots and who knows how many repair packs. And I've said many a time, I don't do Factorio because you play Factorio for the combat. Like, you play for the base building and the automation. You don't build for the combat. But this is kind of satisfying. I'm having a little bit of fun with this moment right here. Now, it's important to note that I'm only going to have fun until the biters evolve one more time and they go from blue biters and spitters into green biters and spitters. But we will deal with that problem when the time comes. Folks, this is the end of an era. This is goodbye to our steel smelting. This was the last early game tech that we really had. Everything else at this point is assembler 2s and above. Everything else is electric smelters and above. And so I don't think that I can officially say that I'm in the early game anymore. We've been to the stars. We've been to another planet. And that feels significant somehow. And it also makes me sad in a way that I don't really know how to explain. Like, I don't know. The early game is kind of my favorite. And now we're just kind of not there anymore. Things have changed. We've had to move on. For better, certainly, don't get me wrong. I can't help but be just a little bit sad. Anyway. Oh, production module 1s? We're going to fix that immediately. Anyway, so what we've done here at this point, folks, for our artillery is this. We've got 4 corners of this little pillbox that is our main base, and we now have 4 artilleries, one in the upper right and left corners, and then in the bottom corners, we now have artilleries that are dedicated to the 2 patches at our iron and our copper ore. And that is actually going to be quite sufficient for us for the foreseeable future. That's going to do us just fine. That'll take care of the majority of the nests that were in the pollution. The problem is that once those spider nests leave, they're going to stop consuming pollution. Our pollution cloud's going to get bigger, and the eternal arms race and the eternal dance is just going to kind of continue on between me and these biters. But still, I'm satisfied to know that there's not going to be any enemies that just sneak up under my nose and in the pollution cloud way too close to me. So now the walls are still going to be important, no doubt, but the waves should become much more manageable in the near future. By the way, we're now getting ourselves a little bit of this additional science, just these things I wasn't sure if I wanted to research while I was away at Volcanus. The one thing I wish I'd done right here was get the blue belts, because we're going to have some throughput issues that we're going to need to solve with blue belts and specifically with blue undergrounds. In the meantime, let's go on over to our lab production. This is going to be now the third iteration of our lab structure, and it's not going to be the last. In fact, we've got at least 2 more lab iterations I can think of, but we're going from 1 lab row deep into 2. We're going to use the same belt weaving, underground, above ground sort of structure that we used for our previous one, and that means that we're going to have still all the sciences that we currently have. In fact, I think we can fit 2 more sciences onto these belts with these labs, but as soon as we get into our science from Gleba, that's going to be the time when everything changes and we need to do our new switch on top of that. And then after we do that switch, then, well, then our labs are going to get just a little bit more biometric. Bio, it's going to be alive. It's alive, I tell you. That's going to be the big of the change. Okay. It's nice to see all these colors, by the way. I think that one of my favorite parts about Factorio is this infrastructure and relaxing sort of part. Now, on Volcanus, we were rushing. We were just trying to get everything done, so that way, if we were off-world and bad things happened, we would not suffer. Not too bad anyway. We'd be able to get back and deal with any problems that arise. But now that we're back here on Nalvis, I feel like I can take a little bit more of a leisurely approach. Once we go to Fulgora, that'll change, but again, until that time comes that we have to go off-world again, I think that I can feel comfortable building at a pace that doesn't rush, doesn't hurry. We just get to look at all the beautiful colors here. The factory will grow, don't get me wrong. In fact, it's going to grow quite big and beautiful. But it's nice to just look at the colors sometimes. The purples and the yellows and the reds and the blues and the blacks and the greens and the oranges. It's nice to see the labs turn on. It's very nice to make sure we have production modules in there. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, at this point, things are going pretty well. I'm not gonna lie, there's been many a time that I have played Factorio and I've more or less gotten to about this point, and I say to myself, I think I've kind of met my goals with this run, you know? Like, you have fun, and the base is not really optimized, and you haven't played for like a science per minute sort of a goal, but you've had fun, you've done well, right? At this point, I know we're going to continue on because we've still got every other planet that we've got to get to, and my goal in this run is to get to the Shattered Planet. It's going to take a little bit more time, that's for sure. Oh my goodness, there was still steel smelting up here. Oh yeah, but that was for the iron ore production. That hasn't been in use actually in quite some time, so never mind. Man, we were in the mid-game for a little bit longer than I thought. Hallelujah. I'm okay with that. But still, one of the few problems I actually have with some of this early game science is that, not science, but early game tech, is that it doesn't turn into anything else. Like, stone furnaces, those can turn into boilers, but boilers become obsolete pretty quick. And then, you know, the steel furnaces, they just kind of become a wasted resource. That is until we get to Volgora, until we get to the scrapyard. What a good mechanic. Have I ever said to you before that I really, really appreciate Woob Software and the developers for being just so awesome? I swear that somebody said to themselves, hey, I really hate that we have to make steel furnaces, and that's just like wasted resources once we upgrade past that point. Like, you know, like e-waste. Why don't we make something that can recycle? I don't know if they had that exact same conversation, like internally or amongst themselves, but I'd like to think that they did. And if so, I really appreciate them actually making a change. Way to go, Woob Software. You're awesome. Alrighty, folks. We've got big miners at the copper and the coal and at the iron ore patches. We've got some good artillery set up. We've still got good defenses. The enemies have been beaten back. And I think it's going to be time to call it a day. As a peaceful world, and as the sun sets on this peaceful world. So, with that, I'm looking forward to getting back to the stars, and I will plan on seeing you in the next one. Take good care. Bye now.